The grape growers and owners of Niagara's wineries have always cared for the land on which they work. 24 Niagara wineries, 53 vineyards have taken the next step, though, and become certified sustainable wine growers. Andrea Kaiser joins us. And Andrea, this is something that really started many years ago as sort of a grassroots kind of movement.
Absolutely. So really neat to think back to the early 2000s when this program sort of began, not in the same iteration we see now, but it was really a charter of growers and winemakers who got together to talk about sustainability and to think about what was happening on the land and what was happening in the wineries, and come together to sign a charter agreement to really try and improve their sustainability at the winery specifically. And that's sort of how this program was born. Just a group of very committed, like-minded people in a room with a similar commitment.
How did it evolve into this current program where you're actually going out and rating them on their sustainability initiatives?
Yeah, so after the charter was established, of about 5-6 years later, there was a discussion and appetite around the idea of creating a certification program. And just to, even though we are obviously in Niagara, and a bulk of the wineries that are certified are in the Niagara region, it is an Ontario program that is operated by the Ontario Craft Wineries, which have a focus on VQA wines. And certainly that's kind of the kernel. When we talk about VQA wines, they are 100% local, so that's always the kernel, the nugget of where a lot of these programs and commitments begin. But really about taking it to the next level and looking around and at the world and doing some benchmarking to say if we want to continue to evolve the program, evolve the charter, what should we be doing? And that's where the discussion around the certification program came in. And in the sort of first iteration was that it was a sustainable wine making program. So wineries would go through a survey online or a paper survey. We're online now, but in the early days of the program. And then actually have auditors come out and double check that the report being done was of course accurate, and looking at the qualitative nature of how wineries were approaching winemaking in the region.
And this was only at the wineries,
yes.
not the grape growers.
Yes.
And that's this is because to me that's fascinating. I think we said 53 vineyards are certified.
Yes, and that's what's been very exciting about my time with this particular organization. So I've been chair now for about 3 years, and we've been doing a lot of additional work over the last 3 years to look at our program and evolve it forward. And as I mentioned, we've done some benchmarking, and we actually did a study looking at all of the different programs around the world, seeing what sort of best practices and how were other regions around the world measuring sustainability. And one of the discussions that came up was, of course, local fruit, VQA, but would we also want to integrate and incorporate the fact that the fruit in the bottle that's being used to produce the wine would also be certified?
Of course.
And so we landed, of course, on that idea, and have evolved the program now to become Sustainable Wine Growing. And so it not only includes a certification of the winemaking process in terms of how we make wine at the winery, but also the vineyard itself. And we've had the Grape Growers of Ontario, who are a great partner in terms of putting that survey together and working with the growers and getting the word out. So we're really excited by the growth of the program.
The program has 3 basic pillars and then a number of different standards. First off, the pillars, what are they?
Yeah, I get pretty excited about these two because they're interesting in the sense that certainly when we think of sustainability, we always think first of environment, planet, preservation. So we look at those sort of core values that certainly preservation of the land, in this case the grapes, is of vital importance. But the other two don't get talked about as much and are, to my mind, pretty exciting as well. So sustainable program is not just about the preservation of the land, but it's also about people and about profit, which
has to be profitable.
Yeah,
these are businesses.
Yeah. We were chatting when we chatted earlier, just sharing the idea of the green belt. When I sat as a municipal councillor, we had lots of discussions about the fact that important to preserve the land, of course, but how do we make sure it's sustainable for future generations? And so that's a core pillar of this program, is ensuring that there's profitability for the farmer and the winery. And then the other part that's a lot of people are becoming more aware of is the need to be cognizant of people diversity, inclusion, and how does that, how do we
Right.
measure that in the workplace?
Some of the specifics, it deals with the processes, it deals with a number of different things. Can you take us through a couple of them? And are many of the wineries already doing these before they get certified?
Yes, so for the most part, wineries intuitively, and growers, of course, are using as little water, for example, as possible. It's related to costs and efficiencies, but obviously from an environmental impact, those are the sorts of things we look at. And there's the three parts, of course, of the surveys follow those three pillars. But the one that people would be most familiar with is the idea of measuring, looking at reducing our carbon footprint, looking at reducing water use, as I mentioned, or
Energy use?
energy. Pardon me. Yes, that's what the word I was looking for. And what's also exciting about the program is we're going into a phase 2, shall we say, of an involvement of the program, where our certification, that we're also starting to look at our survey, which was a lot of the survey was based on qualitative data, but we're moving towards quantitative data now, and that is because the idea that talking about net zero, we had some other regions around the world that have committed to net zero by certain dates.
Right.
So that's kind of our next investment in the program, is to realign the survey to become more quantitative in nature, so that we can do some real measurements and set some long-term goals and vision for the future.
That's exciting. How
Yeah.
can people find out more about this?
Well, they can go to the website, Sustainable Winegrowing Ontario, and see the wineries that are certified, and the growers, of course, that grow the grapes for these amazing local wines.
Andrea Kaiser, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.